Coming to day 14, vacuum in Delta Lake. In Delta Lake, every transaction creates a new data file and leaves the older one behind. This ensures ACID compliance and enables time travel. But without any cleanup, your storage would balloon forever. Therefore, vacuum command comes into picture. It deletes the stale file and no longer that are no longer referenced by delta transaction log. So you can explicitly run vacuum command and do a cleanup of your cloud storage. So let's start with the first question. What is the default retention? Retention period is the period during which the older files are still maintained, right? So what is the default retention period? Default retention period is 7 days. If you this enables the version history. So till 7 days you can check the versions. You can bring back the older version also sometimes. So by default, Delta Lake retains older data file for 7 days. This protects against the accidental deleting files still needed by long running queries or streaming jobs. If you're trying vacuum with a shorter retention, you need to explicitly override. So default is 7. If you want to, like, let's say 2 days, 1 days, then even 0 days is possible, but you need to override it. That's a risky because time travel is gone. That time travel feature is allowed only with that. Vacuum versus time travel. Second question. A data engineer is trying to travel back to a version older than 10 days but receives error that data files are missing. What is time travel? Time travel helps you to view the older version of a data. So you can trace the older version back, right? So this implies that you need a capability to view the older files. But what will happen is, so if you ran vacuum, the older versions would be completely deleted. So let's say your data is having a default retention period of 7 days, correct? So data will be maintained for 7 days, and once you run the vacuum, all the older files will be cleaned up. And then if you try to do time travel, what does time travel helps is, time travel helps you to go back to an older data. And the key in this answer is, like, key in the question is, the data engineer is trying to go beyond 7 days, correct? So that's where the files must not be present. Then the most appropriate command which must have ran and cleaned up the file is vacuum. So just an explanation, time travel depend on older files still being present. They has to be present. Once the vacuum deletes them, you cannot query those versions anymore. That is why retention period is extremely important property. You must use it wisely. Okay. So 7 day retention period is something which is default, and for again lesser you need to put an override. Managed versus external table. When dropping a delta table, why are both tables metadata and data files deleted? Okay. So this is a core concept of managed table versus external table. Let me check if I have the concept ready with me, and then we'll take those two questions. Okay. Oh my God, I don't think I have, but let me in brief tell you what is managed table versus external table. Okay. So what is a managed table and what is an external table? Managed table is something where the complete data and metadata is controlled by the table itself. Okay, metadata is present in your metastore and data is present in the cloud service provider. But since this is a managed table, the fate of your data and metadata are bind together. Whereas in case of external table, the data and metadata, first of all, are not present in the same location. Also, the fate is not bound together. Now, how it will happen is, let's say if a table is managed and if you delete or perform any drop operation on the table, the complete data and metadata is dropped. Simple. Managed, both will go. External, only metadata will go, data will still remain. Now, based on this concept, this question is there. When dropping a delta table, why are both tables metadata and data files deleted? Now, in which case the fate is bound together? It is managed table. So the answer is the table is managed. Okay. Uh, the retention might confuse you, but it's not related to that. If both are going, in that case, on the drop, if both are going, then definitely table is managed is the answer. For the managed table, Databricks controls both data and metadata. As I said, the fate of data and metadata are bound together. Whereas in case of external table, when dropping a table, why only the table's metadata is deleted but the data file remains? The type of table is external. These are very simple questions but very key concepts, important concepts from exam perspective as well as real life. Like what type of table you wanted to create, whether you wanted to control the data and metadata both, or whether you want to control only the metadata but data you just wanted to let it be as a part of external cloud storage. Okay, so both are possible. You take the decision when you are designing your system, but the most important part is the question. Like if, and for the question it is very simple. If both are bound together, like both are getting deleted, then it's managed. If both are not getting deleted, like only metadata is getting deleted, then it is an external table. Okay, so these are the questions related to like retention period, manage, unmanaged table, manage an external table. This was the day 14. We'll go to day 15 soon, and then we'll continue our journey. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks.